This is an NBC News special report. Here's Chanel Jones.
We are coming on the air with breaking news from Afghanistan. An explosion at the Kabul airport where thousands of people are still attempting to evacuate the country. The Pentagon confirms the blast. No word yet on injuries. The blast coming just hours after a security alert from the U.S. State Department warning an attack could be imminent and telling Americans to stay away from the airport. Let's bring in NBC's Courtney Kuby. She's at the Pentagon. Courtney, what can you tell us?
So we have very little details about what actually happened on the ground, other than there was at least one explosion. Now, it's centered around the Abbey Gate. That's on the southeast side of the Kabul airport. And this is an area that before the Taliban took over a little over a week ago, there was a very western area. There's a well-known hotel right nearby. It's within walking distance of that gate, called the Baron Hotel. Americans have been gathering there in the past several days to try to make their way into the airport through that Abbey Gate. What we're trying to find out from U.S. military and defense sources and officials right now is, were there any casualties? In addition to the people who have been going through the gates in recent days, there also have been large crowds gathering outside of those gates, and particularly at the Abbey Gate. And many of those are Afghans, people who are trying to get on those evacuation flights and get out of that country. In addition to the civilians on the outside of the gate, though, Chanel, there are U.S. military personnel who've been on the inside of that gate. They've been checking in people, trying to get through. They've been securing that area and that perimeter. And there also have been U.S. State Department consular officials who are helping with names, helping the military know who it is that can enter through that gate. Again, what we're trying to find out is the extent of any casualties with this explosion or explosions, who the casualties were, and was the perimeter breached in this explosion. One of the big concerns in recent days is an attack by ISIS, and this was one of the scenarios that U.S. officials were very concerned about. In these crowds, they were worried that ISIS would be able to infiltrate in, potentially with a suicide bomber, a vehicle-borne explosive device that would not only kill potentially scores of people there, but could potentially breach the airport perimeter and open it up for additional people to get through, Chanel.
This is such a scary time for families there and here in the States. Courtney, thank you so much. Let's go to NBC's Richard Engel, who was in Kabul yesterday and spoke face-to-face with a top Taliban official, and he's in Doha now and joins us by phone. Richard, what can you tell us?
So I was at that airport this morning. I'm hearing similar reports to Courtney that it was by the Baron Hotel, that there may have been a bomb in a sewage drain, that there may have been casualties, still unconfirmed reports of who those casualties were. The Baron Hotel and the area around it is an area where Afghans, some of them with special visas, some of them Afghan Americans, some VIPs have been gathering because it is very close to the airport. So it was considered a safe area where people could go, they could muster, and then get shuttled into the airport. That area is primarily British and American forces. But no word on casualties. Yes, there has been some sort of explosion. The Taliban are in control of the something that they had been trying to prevent, something that the U.S. had been warning would happen. Will it slow down the evacuation is a major question. I think that's going to depend on casualties and if there are any casualties to American personnel or to people who need to be medevaced from the scene.
Richard, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. What happens next? I mean, and also, can you put this into perspective for people who are watching? You've been there on the ground. It is such a tense time for the families there and here waiting for the relatives to come.
It is. The clock is ticking down, and that is a cliche, but right now it is true, because while Tuesday may be the deadline, the U.S. and the Taliban are really trying to limit the number of people flooding in, because every new person who comes on the base is another person that they have to evacuate. They also have to evacuate themselves. When I was on the base this morning, I saw streams and streams of Afghans walking in single file lines heading toward not American aircraft only, but aircraft from Sweden, Australia, Great Britain, New Zealand, all over the world are taking off and landing at that airfield. Qatar, of course. Qatar's evacuated about 40,000. And the Taliban wants this to continue, and they don't want attacks to happen, which seems to have happened just now with this bombing by the Barron, or this explosion by the Barron Hotel,
this is
by that gate.
Such a tense time, so much anxiety. Richard Engel there on the ground. Thank you, Richard. Let's go to NBC's Kelly O'Donnell, who's at the White House, where the president is monitoring the situation. Kelly, what are you hearing?
Well, officials tell me the president is right now in the Situation Room with his national security team. I can also tell you that the Pentagon spokesman says that the Kabul airport blast has resulted in an unknown number of casualties. They'll continue to update us. It's important to look at this warning about what has transpired today. The U.S. and partners have been saying there was a stream of intelligence that they deemed very credible, now borne out by events, of the potential for a terror attack. That was influencing the president's decision-making on the timeline for the evacuations and withdrawal, wanting to get out by August 31st, in part to not have any difficulty in breakdown of communication with the Taliban, but also concerned about the amount of time on the ground being a greater risk for any kind of a terror strike. We don't know what group is behind this yet, or the scope of what has happened with today's blast. At the same time, the president, who has been briefed on contingency plans, had said that this could be an issue where it would extend the U.S. presence if evacuations were interrupted by something like a blast at the airport. Chanel?
All right, Kelly O'Donnell in Washington. Thank you, Kelly. You can find much more right now on NBCNews.com and MSNBC. We'll return most of you now to more of Today. I'm Chanel Jones in New York. This has been an NBC News Special Report.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.